One of my favorite small flowering trees is the dogwood. And there are lots of different types of dogwoods that you can choose from. Dr. Elwin Orton hybridized some of the dogwoods, and these dogwoods involve crosses between a Chinese dogwood, the common Cornus Florida, which is our common dogwood, which grows all the way from Florida up the East Coast. And the great thing about some of these dogwoods are that they include disease resistant and they're also drought tolerant. And this one behind me here is just a beautiful variety that blooms later in the season. Now these bloom later than some of the other dogwoods we might have in our garden. Which is great because that helps if you're going to have a frost or some problem like that that affects the early flowering dogwood. Many times these dogwoods will bypass that. Some of the types you might look for might be Venus, might be Aurora, might be Constellation, and many different varieties you can choose from. Now I do want to show you what our common dogwood might look like in your garden compared to this one. So I've got another area where I do have some of the common dogwoods. This dogwood here is Constellation. It's been in the garden for over 20 years. But right here, you can see one of our native dogwoods, known as the common dogwood or the flowering dogwood, Cornus Florida. And the problem with this is it is subject to some disease problems where the other hybrids are not. And the common dogwood is really susceptible to drought damage, and then some of the diseases set in. So if you look behind me here, one of my favorites is Aurora. And look what a great shade tree this is. And again, it's one of the new hybrids. They bloom later, they're disease resistant, so you don't have to be out there spraying all the time. And as you can see, it's about 30 feet wide and at the max about 30 feet tall. It is one of my favorite trees to plant in the garden that gives you shade because you can look underneath it and you can grow hostas, you can grow helleborus, you can grow baptisia, you can grow ornamental grasses, and it doesn't get too big in a garden. So I highly recommend the new hybrid dogwoods. And again, you're going to have to search for them. From my understanding, some people have said they have not easily found some of the varieties. I know the one Aurora I've had some difficulty in finding, but I think you could probably find Venus pretty easy. The main difference between these dogwoods and the flowering dogwoods is these don't produce fruit where the common dogwood produces fruit. I live in the Shenandoah Valley between Waynesboro and Stanton. My name is Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.